Okay, hey everybody, this is Olivia from Let's Get Real RD, and today I have on with me a very special guest. Her name is Heather, and we're welcoming Heather to talk about her story today, which is super exciting. I can't wait to share with you guys. So, I actually worked with Heather before I even started Let's Get Real RD and focused on fertility specifically, which is even more exciting and why I'm so happy that she was able to share her story, because we weren't even necessarily focusing on fertility as the number one thing, but because fertility takes a really systems approach and we have to look at different systems in the body, and that's what functional nutrition does, Heather was able to accomplish her fertility goals. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let Heather fill us in on her story, a little bit of her background, and just get us up to date on what she was, kind of what her story is and what brought her to seek out functional care. So Heather, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is really exciting. I'm happy to share my story and hope that it can reach somebody out there who's, maybe struggling with the same.
Absolutely. I think it will reach many women. So tell us a little bit about kind of just your background, what brought you to seek out some functional medicine or functional nutrition care in the first place.
Sure. I had been on the fertility journey probably about 5 years with no luck. I did get a bit of a late start. My first pregnancy was at the age of 40, and that ended in miscarriage. And from there, I proceeded to have 4 additional miscarriages, had gone through 2 cycles of IVF that did not work out, and a failed IUI as well. So, I was disappointed, frustrated, and kind of at the end of my journey almost. And I started to listen to a lot of podcasts and started to read some books about functional medicine and fertility, and started to think about the fact that there was still a lot more that I could do. And I started to look for a functional practitioner in Philadelphia, and did find one, and said that this was going to be my last effort. And I was going to leave no stone unturned and just give it my best shot. And that's what I proceeded to do.
Amazing. I love that you sought out different answers. You didn't just accept that, that was it and nothing was going to work. And you really took a different approach, which is how a lot of people find functional medicine, I think, overall.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's really unfortunate that we tend to find it at the end of a long conventional medicine journey. I wish that I had actually started with this, and but this is how I found it, and it worked for me.
yeah.
So either way.
Yep. I agree. I totally agree with you. And I think now it is becoming more widespread and more well known. And hopefully we can get to people before they're at the end of their rope.
Mhm.
Because it's just, I think then, when we have that motivation more so in the beginning, not motivation, but just, I think, maybe even hope in the
Mhm.
beginning, right? It could
Yep.
be a little bit better of a journey. So your feelings before starting the program were probably what? Tell me a little bit about what you were kind of thinking, your hesitations before beginning the program.
Sure. I mean, I guess sort of being exhausted from the journey in general. I was concerned about taking on more research, more information, diving into yet another kind of portal of fertility. And then I had some mild concerns about maybe the program being too woo-woo. I wasn't sure if it was going to be too alternative. I value natural healing, but I also believe in modern medicine. I kind of land somewhere in the middle. And so I had big concerns about, is this going to be right for me, or are we just going to like talk a lot
Yeah.
and hope for the best, and that was it. But the more I read about the premise of functional medicine and understood that so much of it was based in evidence-based research and testing, I kind of felt like that was the nice middle line between conventional and natural medicine. And so I was pleasantly surprised when I actually did the program and realized, yes, that in fact was exactly the case. So it really worked for me with regard to that. It was something I could believe in, I could research, I could read about, case studies. There was just a lot of background information that was real and science-based.
Yes, I love that you talked about that, because functional medicine, it is, a lot of people still kind of put it in that natural, more Eastern medicine. And what I like to say is it's a bridge between the two, right?
Mhm.
Between more allopathic, or what we think of as our kind of most common medicine here in our nation,
Mhm.
versus more Eastern Chinese medicine type. That is kind of like a perfect bridge,
Mhm.
and with the science behind it. So happy that that was your experience, that you found that to be a really good sweet spot for you.
Mhm.
And so when you started the program, of course, yes, your goals were to hopefully increase your fertility and work to start a family. Now, I remember feeling, and I probably didn't tell you this because, I mean, I wanted you to get the best experience possible there, but, or maybe I did tell you, I don't know, you could probably let me know. I was definitely not an expert in fertility at that time, right? So I was did not want to lead you to believe that this is something that it would end in a successful fertility journey,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
We were looking at more overall health. At my previous job, it was at the Modey Center in Philadelphia. Great practice there.
Mhm.
And I was just more of a overall health functional medicine dietitian. And so, but I knew, and I knew that certain areas that we wanted to work on with you, specifically your adrenal health, was one that I remember focusing on a
That's
lot,
right. Yes.
right? And
Yep.
so I said, well, we can focus on these certain areas, specifically adrenal health and gut health, and those have connections with fertility. So let's work on those and see what we can really kind of touch on in our overall goals.
Mhm.
And so the adrenal health was a big one for you. Was that right?
Yeah, it was a big area of focus, and also fats was a big area of focus,
Okay.
just in terms of the consumption of specific fats and more fats than I was used to taking in, which actually made me feel amazing in the
Yeah.
end. But yeah, those two components I kind of stand out as things, and of course, vegetable intake was over the top in all the best ways possible. But yeah, I remember adrenal health was definitely something um, that was a regular kind of area of focus. That adrenal healing mix was so delicious. Still
Yes, I love that you're still doing it too. And that's the
doing
cool
that. I ate it last night.
it. And that's a cool thing about working on these things before pregnancy, or working on pregnancy, is that you can continue them. They're going to benefit you the whole way throughout.
Yep.
So I love that. And you were working, I think, like, your job was so demanding,
Yeah.
right? And you had a really kind of a tight, because you're an artist.
Yeah, I'm an artist and a professor at a university that's almost 2 hours outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So in Philly's my home base. So I was kind of prepping for the week and then bringing everything up to where I teach, and staying up there for a few days, getting through my work week, and then coming back. And so yeah, there was a lot of moving parts to a weekly schedule.
Yeah.
To integrate this into that was one of the challenges that I was able to overcome. But
Yeah.
yeah, it
And
was.
that was really daunting at first, right? I imagine. I mean, you're probably like, what the heck? How can I even, do you know what I'm dealing with, right? Like,
Yeah.
travel and drive and work and do this. And we worked with a plan together, and you were the one to, of course, the client is always the one to make it happen. You made it a priority. You made that happen. You did what you needed to do. You implemented the recipes, took time for yourself. And tell us a little bit about, like, how that progress, how that evolution kind of happened with your journey and, like, implementing these things. And did you feel any different during the program? Or tell me a little bit about your journey in the
Sure.
thick.
Initially, I knew it was going to be a fair amount of work, and I also know that I'm the type of person that was going to do all the things. And so I made sure that I got pretty organized in the beginning, and some of it was trial and error, but I figured out, how can I make this happen? How can I get the food share to deliver my food on this particular day, and food prep on Sundays, and bring everything up in a rolly cart, in my car. So I kind of got my system down. And once you do things for a couple of weeks, then it's just sort of, it becomes the norm. It's a lot, but it becomes, you just know what you have on your schedule for the day. So I kind of got that underway. I would say that initially, it's a kind of a slow burn to make these big changes. to yourself physically. But one of the most interesting things was that there was a lot of people in my life, unrelated, at where I work, friends like locally, people I hadn't seen in a while, who started to say things to me when I would see them after having not seen them for a while, or even people who I'd been seeing kind of regularly at work were approaching me. They had no idea I was doing this program. And they were actually commenting on how I looked. And they said, "What's going on with you? You look really refreshed," or something, they completely acknowledge things about me physically that were super surprising and complete evidence that something was changing physiologically and biologically with my body and how I presented. And so that for me was like, that was it. I mean, there was no better proof than that, because it wasn't of the same pool. It was very unrelated and kind of at random, but there was no arguing with that, because I typically would feel exhausted and look exhausted. So people would go from saying like, "You look really tired today," to all of a sudden like, "Wow, you look really refreshed. The whites of your eyes are really white," and all these like wonderful things. And I thought, oh my gosh, I think that something's happening.
Wow.
That was probably about the 3-month mark, I think, once I really had, given it a good go at the routine and the schedule and in compliancy with everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
How
me too.
cool.
It was exciting.
And it would just be so reaffirming, because you're putting in the work, you're doing it, you're making those changes, and change is always hard. So to hear people that you don't often see actually notice those changes, wow, that had to be like such a great boost of confidence
It
for
really
you.
was. It really was. And I guess I thought, my end goal was to have a baby or to conceive, but I always thought that if, realistically speaking, if that didn't work, I hope that I could just feel good and be at optimal health. And so knowing that I was getting that, was just, it felt good. And it kind of felt like it took some stress away of like the ultimate goal at the end.
Right. Truly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I just love that, focusing on, and this is such a great example of a systems-based approach, which is often what I try to explain to people what we do in functional nutrition and medicine. And it's hard to kind of grasp, right, if you're not familiar with it. But this is a classic example that we approached a system. We approached those adrenals, which tie into the gut, which also have an impact on our ovary production and our egg quality and our sex hormones. So all of these things in functional medicine are interconnected and interweaved. And when we kind of pick the one that whatever your story is, whatever maybe your, I don't want to say like weakest link, but wherever the most attention is needed in those systems, we nourish that, and it just has a cascade effect on all these different areas in the body. So I just love that example. Do you now feel like you have a better understanding of your hormones, of your fertility, of your health?
I will always say that fertility is mysterious. It is extraordinarily mysterious. But I do feel as though what I was focusing on prior to doing the program were kind of all the wrong things with regard to like what I thought was happening with me hormonally, or what I thought was causing my hormones to maybe fluctuate or be this versus that when testing them, was kind of irrelevant after doing the program, because I think I realized the power of nutrition and something as simple as water and rest, but all of those things together, that was where the focus needed to be. So I don't know that I fully understand the biology of my hormones, but I understand the solutions to balancing them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I just like the focus was just sort of misdirected earlier on. And also, a tablespoon of maca every other day was just not going to cut it. Like that one thing, like that one thing to satisfy this one, hormone issue was just, it's not enough. And so I think the bigger picture and doing all the things together was so powerful together. And so for me, that's what I walked away from understanding about my hormone health.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's very common for a lot of people, and women specifically, is there's so much information out there these days, right? And so, yeah, we can have access to lots of great tips. Maca is a great adaptogen to help
Mm-hmm.
with our adrenal health. There are certain supplements that people would take that are great to get started on. But the problem, I think, is we come in thinking, I'm doing everything right, I'm doing all these things, and nothing's working,
Right.
so you're not going to tell me anything different. Where in reality, we tend to get a little hyper focused,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about pulling the lens back and looking at, again, that systems approach, as they're all so connected, and really bringing everything together rather than hyper focusing on one thing, which is oftentimes what, I mean, we as humans do. But
Yes.
also our medical system is kind of, it's very specialized, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
very narrow focus. So that's a great example of pulling that lens back and looking at things in a overall larger picture.
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful. What is one piece of advice that you would give someone who is hesitant to begin a functional fertility journey, or maybe had some experience with infertility or failed um, IVF? What would you tell them? What would be your advice to them?
Um, I guess going back to the idea of leaving no stone unturned, I know it can be extremely exhausting to be at the tail end of disappointment and struggle. Um, and it can be hard to dig deep and try to muster up the energy to give something one more chance. But, with all of that conventional approach, and it works for a lot of people. I don't mean to put it down at all, but you have such a lack of control over all of it. You have a doctor telling you what to take, when to take it, all the time, and you're just sort of at the mercy of these results, which often are disappointing. I felt like this program allowed me to have a really important role in my own fertility journey and have some control over it. So I would argue that there's something to be said for that kind of maybe pulls you out of this vulnerable defeat that takes place when things don't go right with IVF.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's an opportunity to kind of gain some control back. Whether it works or not, you're still gaining control and leaving no stone unturned. So I really go back to that. At the end of my journey, I wanted to know, if it's not going to work out, I will not have any questions about what I could have done or should have done, or maybe that would have worked. I knew for me, I just wanted to make sure that I gave it every possible chance. And the first day that I met with somebody at the program, I remember saying, well, if it doesn't work, my goal is to at least feel really healthy. Because if I wasn't going to have a baby, then I was going to live a life that was different. And I wanted to be in great health for that, and to be able to do all the things that, not having children can bring to someone's life. So I kind of had two goals, and one was a little higher than the other, but I would say that it's all good stuff. There's nothing to gain but good health and the possibility of a baby.
Yeah. Wow. You touched on a lot of really important points there. And I know that's going to inspire a lot of women. So, and it's funny that you use that phrase, leave no stone
Mhm.
unturned. That's actually one of the phrases that I have right on my website.
Oh,
And
really?
how I describe my main fertility program
Oh,
is,
that's great.
right? And so
Hear
I
that?
love hearing that from you as someone who's gone through that. I
Mhm.
love that was, kind of how you felt about it, because it's just diving in, really understanding, hey, I've touched on everything that I can, and we've touched on lifestyle, nutrition, diet, that systems approach, and I feeling confident that you've done the work. And hey, at the end of the day, like you said, fertility is such a mysterious
It is.
phenomenon. It's, we can only control so much,
Yeah.
but we know that we have done everything to really optimize that fully, if that is the right path for us forward. So I just love that no matter what happened, your friends even saw it in you. You had a different look, you had a different just vibe, and they saw a healthier Heather, which is
Mhm.
really, really empowering. And then to know that that healthier you is now supporting a baby in a totally different way
Yes.
than maybe a wrung out, stressed, kind of, maybe even not as not having as many nutrients to provide that
Mhm.
baby. Now you're like, hey, I'm really, really rocking this pregnancy, right? Because I took care of myself, and now I can take care of that baby.
Yep, it was the perfect primer, and the way that I live life moving forward, I don't think I could ever go backward. It's such a normal part of the way that my husband and I eat in this house and approach food, and it was there was a lot to take away from it. It was not just sort of the end, and that was the end of that, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of takeaway.
Amazing. It's almost the start of a brand new journey for you.
Very much.
Love that. And that's so incredible. And I'm so happy that that is your new foundation. You're using that moving forward and everything that you have to look forward to. So I just thank you so much, Heather. This really, I mean, this made my day. And I thank you, first of all, for reaching out. So, Heather, we hadn't talked for how long? I don't know, a year?
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
not a year.
yeah, but maybe about a half a year. Yeah, yeah.
And I had gone through, I had started my own practice, and I had
Right.
focused on fertility as my number one thing. And Heather reached out to me through Facebook Messenger and shared her success story. And I had no idea. Sometimes, people end the program and they graduate, and then we don't know what happens. And so I'm just so thankful that Heather took a moment of her day to send a quick little message and said, hey, this is how this program helped me. I am now with child. And it was just so many times we don't take that moment to reach out and say something positive. So I just am really appreciative that you did that. It really just made my day and reaffirmed what I do. And so I just thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. I was so excited to send that message.
So much. And it's awesome to see you, Heather. Thank you for your time today. And I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and day, and best of luck to you in your pregnancy. And I hope everything goes wonderfully.
Thank you so much, Olivia. It was great talking with you.
You as well. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.